Yo everyone, what's going on? I'm Ollie Rodriguez Dom, and in this video, following on as well from the last video I did, which basically was the Eminem new Eminem Show 20th anniversary vinyl that I did. It did really well, and I thought, you know what, why don't we carry on this little Eminem streak we've got going. It's someone I talk about quite a lot on the channel every once in a while, show some merch, but today I think is actually a good time where we can actually sit down and talk a bit more about the albums, which is why I'm going to go through and rank every single Eminem album on this tier list right now. Now, before we do go any further, please make sure to subscribe if you do enjoy the video, as well as leave a like as well. It just helps me out a bit. And to set the tone of this tier list, we are going to start off with Relapse. Now, Relapse is kind of, it's either, I think over the years it's basically become like a, you either love it or you hate it sort of situation. And it's definitely grown a lot of love in the recent years, and I'm definitely one of those people who show it a lot of love. Now, can I justify putting it into a masterpiece? I do recognise some flaws with the album, but personally I get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and for that reason, like, it really makes me like want to rank it higher, because I go back and listen to this album probably the most actually out of all the Eminem albums. Of course it is a messed up album in terms of some of the like content that he's talking about and whatnot, but I just really just find it a fun, playful rap album with like a horrorcore kind of theme built into it. So I don't think, like, if I take away all my personal biases, I'm actually going to put it into amazing, because I don't think I can put it into a masterpiece, because there are a lot of flaws with the album, but I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So for that reason, I am going to put it into the amazing tier. But let's go to that first era, and we're going to look at the Slim Shady LP. Now, this for me, it's an okay album. It's not that it's like bad, and I really do appreciate what this album did as an album and how it like just launched his career. But when I'm like, the way I'm coming at this tier list is like from a listening value. I can appreciate and respect what an album has done, and I really do like acknowledge this one as like his kind of, it's in his trilogy of the top albums. I just can't ever really like fully get invested into it and fully like listen to it as a enjoyable piece of music that I really want to like go out my way to like listen to if I'm going back through the Eminem albums. And to actually fill in this a little bit more, I'm actually going to put in Curtain Call 2 into OK. Now, obviously Curtain Call 2, it has all the hits that you want from like, say, that kind of like the second era onwards. It's really good, and it really does the job that it needed to do in terms of like having kind of a Eminem's greatest hits from 2009 onwards. But I think my biggest problem with this is that it didn't hit the same as Curtain Call 1. And one of the things Curtain Call 2 did was it just kind of, it released an old unreleased song, which granted is like the best thing off of this album that I have gone out of my way to add to playlists and just listen to, because it's that Relapse style that I love to listen to, which is This Love featuring 50 Cent. It's even from 2009. However, the only other one was the Snoop Dogg collaboration, and that song is good. But I think a lot of people are missing stuff from him, and like, there wasn't that iconic song that was new, that was like really pushing the boat in terms of what he does musically on the project, that probably would have cemented it as a really good compilation album. And obviously compilation albums, they're not obligated to give new songs to you, but Curtain Call 1 takes the cake when it comes to compilation albums, and moving into that, it's in a masterpiece for me. This was the first Eminem album that I actually properly brought and was actually able to just like have on vinyl. I think it actually might have been one of my first own vinyls. I think my mate Buck brought it for me as like a late birthday present or something. And like, if anyone just came up to me randomly and was like, right, I want to start listening to Eminem, what do you recommend? I would just hand them this project and be like, just go and listen to that and let me know what you think. It has everything you need on there, from a sense of understanding all the good parts that were in the previous like albums, and like kind of, obviously it gives the hits from them, but on top of that you get a really just iconic song in When I'm Gone. A lot of people love Mockingbird, but I feel like When I'm Gone is Mockingbird perfected, and I just feel like it's the perfect compilation album, and it's what compilation albums should aspire to be like. And then when you also look at it, it's been on the Billboard charts for I don't even know how many weeks, like 200? You know what, I'm gonna have a quick Google of this. How long was Curtain Call? Right, so it spent 600 weeks on the Billboard chart, the first ever hip hop project to do so. I think that says enough right there. So we kind of started from just near the top to kind of go into the middle to go into the top. So how about we go right down to the bottom and take the elevator all the way down. And I'd hate to do it because I don't hate it as much as other people do. But it's going to be Revival. Like, for me, Revival was something that was supposed to be really special to me because I was born between the Slim Shady LP and the Marshal Mathers LP. I was like in between there. So I wasn't listening as a baby / toddler. And then even when I kind of hit my teenage years, I was very much like heavy metal, and that was the genre for me. So I kind of missed all the like Eminem releases to actually enjoy them on launch. I kind of thought Eminem had retired, like, not gonna lie to you. I thought like Marshal Mathers LP 2 is kind of like the perfect sort of swan song album in my opinion in terms of for Eminem. So as you can expect, as someone who had sort of just become to love Eminem and his music, I was excited to see that there was a new album releasing, and when it released, I kind of felt a bit bummed out. I think there was some like magic that was kind of missing from a lot of his songs, and it kind of almost felt really flat in a lot of ways. Now, if it was a new rapper who was like releasing new music and released their first like debut album and it was Revival, it would have done really well. But because it's Eminem, it's not what people want, and it's not what they really asked for from him. And I think what he was trying to do was trying to appeal everyone in his fan base. I guess what I'm trying to say is it was like a mashup of all his previous albums before. And I think for that reason, it kind of didn't, it meant that Revival didn't really get its own character or really know what the overall subject matter it really was. But I think the two songs though is so just like unfortunately put on like the basically the firing line is the final two songs with Castle and Arouse. Well, I think there might be a song in between them, but the storytelling of those two songs is just like, I actually think that's some of Eminem's best work in the past decade. But because they're on like the end of the album where people just weren't listening at that point, they kind of got missed, and those two songs don't get the appreciation they deserve. And because they're on an album that just doesn't have much substance to it, it really kind of falls apart and deserves to be in the trash tier as an album. Alright, so I rounded a little bit more. I'm just going to throw Shady XV, I'm just going to put it in good. It's kind of like in between the sort of Eminem Curtain Call 1 and Curtain Call 2. I think there's some really, I think the reason I put it a bit higher than Curtain Call 2 is because you get some really good stuff on here. Die Alone, really good, and also just a song that you just cannot like beat, in my opinion. It's definitely one that should be higher ranked in Eminem's like discography, and that is Guts Over Fear. And for those reasons alone, even though like as a project it's not exactly one you need to go out of your way to listen to, or the songs are individually actually Eminem, they're worth listening to and they're all good. So for that reason, I think it deserves to be in the good tier. So I think the next thing I want to rank is Marshal Mathers LP 1, and this one is going straight into masterpiece. I think I don't need to say too much about it. Like, just the introduction to the album is perfect, and it's essentially, I would say it's unskippable as like an album. Like, you have to listen to everything throughout, but there are two tracks on it that I think would almost argue to like prevent them from a masterpiece. But one of them isn't actually a song, and the song that you do always tend to skip is Kim, and for that reason I think that one's, it's not that it's because it's bad or anything. I think it's just one of those songs that you kind of have to be prepared to listen to, and you don't always really want to hear it. And the one track that I'm on about that's not even a song is kind of the one where he's kind of like, I think it's Shaggy sucking his dick or something, which I get he was dissing him at the time, but that's always a track that I just have to press skip on because I don't need to hear it. But other than that, we all know why this album is a masterpiece. So for me, I agree that it is, and it has to be up there. But how about kind of following the whole Curtain Call 2 going to 1? We go from Marshal Mathers LP 1 to Marshal Mathers LP 2, which I'm actually going to say is bottom of good. People will probably, I feel like people are still going to be mad that Slim Shady LP is down so low, but I feel like this is going to be the very bottom of good for me. It's actually, you know what, that is a perfect way to summarize this album. This is Eminem's superhero album. Like, this is just like the action blockbuster superhero film for Eminem in the form of an album. It's just him making some really good hits in it through the form of Survival, Rap God, Monster. And one of the like really good things about it that I really like enjoyed from a fan perspective is that you can listen to this as just like a casual listener of Eminem, or just like you like rap music, and just like enjoy the album, but if you're really an Eminem fan, you can kind of go a little bit under the surface of this album and you can pick up so many references to everything that came before, like Bad Guy being basically a sequel to Stan. There's like loads of different like random little bits, but just like one to pick out, say like the on Rap God, the whole 6 minutes then Shady You're On is from an old song off of, I believe it is somewhere on the Marshal Mathers LP. But there's like so many hidden Easter eggs and stuff, which makes it really enjoyable and more fun to go back and like re-listen to if you're feeling in the kind of like fandom sort of like zone or something. Like it made the hits for kind of like my era of like say kids at school, and I think it kind of appealed to that generation rather than the old Eminem fans at that time period. And let's go back in time. I'm doing a lot of back and forth here, but we're gonna go with Encore next, and this for me I think could have been considered, like personally from a listening perspective, all the way in trash. Like I actually do get a bit more of a kick out of Revival sometimes. However, what saves Encore is it has some classics on there, and again some hidden gems as well. Am I really going to say Just Lose It is a classic? Yeah, why not? But you got that on there. You obviously have Mockingbird on the track list as well. I think Never Enough is also a great song as well, another sort of gym song as well that I highly recommend. But this was obviously Eminem just kind of like going through something, obviously like his drug addiction, and just clearly I feel like he had gone on such a really good run that it was just an eventuality that there was going to be a dud sort of thrown in there, and that was that dud at the time. So Encore for me, it's pretty bad, but I can't really justify putting it in trash just because there are some classics that kind of prevent it from being like completely thrown to the bottom of the bin. So next up we're going to go with Bad Meets Evil, and for me this is actually going to go at the bottom of Amazing because I want to see another one. I think one of the like really great things with this album is the fact that like it's obviously, I think it's like 30-40 minutes. It's really short, but it's a lot of fun. It's just two MCs just doing what they do best, and the fact that you have Eminem, who's considered like one of like the greatest like rappers of all time, like actually like having someone meet and match his level, which I think Royce does. It says a lot about the project, and I think if you are a fan of rap, this is like an album that you should really go out your way to listen to, because I think like hip hop and rap's like always like had like great collaboration albums, and this is like one of them that definitely deserves to be in that conversation. Before I move on to the next thing, I am going to make an adjustment to this tier list. I am actually going to put Marshal Mathers LP 2 above Shady XV. That should definitely be at the bottom of it, Shady XV, because it obviously isn't it's not on par with an album. It's a much smaller condensed thing, especially when it's not like fully just Eminem. It's obviously got Eminem songs on there, but it's also got like just like Yellow Wolf songs, or songs that Eminem either helped produce or people he worked with that were on his label at the time. So it's kind of a smaller thing to look at, and Marshal Mathers LP 2, like when I'm thinking about it, it definitely deserves to be above that. I would 100% listen to that over XV. Which then brings me to the next one, which I'm going to say is Kamikaze, which is going to go right in the middle of those two. Because Kamikaze, it's kind of that similar thing of what Bad Meets Evil does. It was a shorter album, and it re-established Eminem from criticism he had got from a previous album and got him back on track to where he really should be. Now that's not to say Kamikaze is perfect, that's why it's in the good tier. It's not in amazing, it's not in masterpiece obviously, but it was really good for setting up and making people go, oh shit, Eminem can still go. But this really silenced a lot of people, especially for a lot of the disses that are on this. And I think personally for me, like my favourite songs on there have to be The Ringer. Stepping Stones I think was, like, in my own opinion, I generally feel like that's a song that doesn't get enough credit and can go alongside songs such as like When I'm Gone or Stand. Maybe it's just a little level below those type of songs, but from like a storytelling perspective, maybe more like Mockingbird sort of level, I would say. Like Stepping Stones is a really good song, and like I really like how it goes over D12, and I feel like that sort of captured something that I don't think Revival really showed too much of with Eminem. But there was something on this album about Eminem that really just hit again. I think people at first like really just like hated on Venom, but obviously his TikToks come about, that made the song a bit more popular, and I don't think Venom's that bad a song. Again, good gym song. I think the only real songs people have real problems with is Bad Guy and I think Nice Guy. It was a bit of a weird like two-parter song that kind of went one after another, but other than that, project's really good. And then obviously following it, you get one of the better diss battles between two rappers in the industry, I would say, between MGK and Eminem, obviously. So I am actually going to go with, we're going to get the Music to Be Murdered By stuff out of the way next, which follows on nicely from Kamikaze again. But to me, I'm actually going to rank Music to Be Murdered By at the bottom of Amazing. So for me, I genuinely consider this to be Eminem's modern day version of the Eminem Show. Now, does that mean that I think it's better than the Eminem Show? No. Does it hit the same as the Eminem Show? No. However, there's a lot of similarities between the two albums, from production to songwriting, and just I feel like more of a style and vibe that I get from an album. That's kind of what I get from that. It's like almost, I think with this album, it's kind of, its character is Relapse meets the Eminem Show almost, and I was there for it. I think something that could hinder it, and it's kind of, for me, it's almost like it nearly goes to the top of good, and my main reason for that is because there's a lot of stuff that kind of like inflates the length of this album. As an Eminem fan, like, I ain't gonna complain when there is a longer album. That means more music for me to enjoy and listen to, but at the same time, that does mean there's time for some songs to feel unnecessary on a project. It's actually more that kind of like the first quarter of the album is like kind of the stuff where I don't really need it, but everything afterwards is like, I love it. Like, Step Down and Marshall are the only ones that I'm just kind of like, eh. But if you sort of took all that stuff out and you just kind of cut it down a bit more, this would genuinely be considered a classic in my opinion. But then if you want to talk about the length of the album, you add a whole extra side to it. And for me, this is one of the most fun things that I've heard from Eminem in a long time, but I'm not going to rank it anywhere above Music to Be Murdered By, because I can appreciate people not enjoying it as much. But to me, I feel like this really kind of felt like it brought back almost the kind of like the Eminem's writing in terms of music that sort of hit the same as like My Name Is, The Real Slim Shady, all that stuff. Like, I want to make it clear, I'm not saying that any of the songs are on those songs levels, but in terms of the fun and the sort of like, I don't know how you want to put it, like, but like style, let's go with that as the word. But like, there's a really like fun style to this that really just like guns blazing, Favorite Bitch, Nah, Higher. There was some good stuff on here that I really enjoyed. Killer, Zeus, She Loves Me. Like, this for me almost felt like there was a different tone from what Music to Be Murdered By Side A was, but because Side B is kind of marketed as the deluxe edition of Music to Be Murdered By, I don't think it really gets the appreciation I think it deserves, or it's not able to be looked at as an individual project. And if anything, it feels like it inflates what Music to Be Murdered By already does. But I fucking love the album, and for that reason, I think it's fair to put it in like the top of good. And I would, for me personally, I would make an argument for bottom of amazing, but I think the two sides are going for different tones, and definitely Music to Be Murdered By Side A is definitely a lot more mature as a concept at times. Now, to go back to the amazing tier, I'm going to put in the Eminem Show, because I'm sure a lot of you will expect it to be, it's not above Relapse, don't worry, don't you worry now. I would say it is top of amazing because it's not perfectly a masterpiece for me. When I look at Marshal Mathers LP, I cannot skip a song, or at least I can't skip them for the wrong reasons. I think everything on that album is a classic, and I can just go to and I can fucking like rap along and enjoy it. I can do the same for the Eminem Show. However, there's a couple in there that just like, I don't remember them, like, and I just don't really think about them, and when I get to them, I'm like, can I just get to the song that's after this? So say like, I can't remember the order of it, but like Say Goodbye to Hollywood, I'm just kind of a bit like, yeah, I get the point, but can I just get to, it might come before it, but like Get Down to Business or even Square Dance. Like, for me, there are a couple, they're not even misses, like they're still really good songs, but they're just like, there's other songs on the album I would rather listen to over some of the songs that are on the album, if that makes sense. Which leaves me with the final album to rank, and that is Recovery. Now, how about I piss you all off and put it into middle of masterpiece? And you know what, just for the sake of it, I'm not gonna give my reason for it. So that has been the video. I've been Ollie Rodriguez-Stallman. That has been quite a fun tier list to do. I like doing album rankings, I have now discovered. I also love Eminem, and all of his albums I get enjoyment out of in one way or another. He has a lot more great albums than he does bad, and he definitely doesn't deserve half the shit that he gets sometimes. Sure, he's aged a bit. Some of his music doesn't hit the same as he was in his prime. That's sort of normal for an artist of his status. So what I'm saying is, get off his fucking back, enjoy his music. If you don't, then that's fine. But also, do go down in the comments, let me know your rankings of the Eminem albums. Maybe give me your top 5, as you can't really provide a whole tier list. I mean, I guess you could if you really wanted to, but give me what your top 5 Eminem albums are. How do you rank my rankings of his albums? So yeah, this has been actually really fun to do. I'm really liking doing the whole tier list things, if you want to go and watch the last video I did about Eminem, which was his Eminem Show 20th anniversary vinyl that I brought, and you want to have a look through that, then I definitely recommend going and watching the video. It'll be on the end screen here. If you have any other recommendations of videos you want me to make in particular related to Eminem, then feel free to let me know as well, because I'd be happy to have a look and see what I can do when it comes to that. But anyway, reminder, if you watch this far, subscribe, leave a like, and I shall see you.
When a Mustang, you're too bad. When a big house with a big pool and a bad bitch, that's too bad. OID's on the track, so you're trying to get past. I'll get 2 words for you, too bad. I'm giving this all that I have just to put my name on the map, so you can get it on your way for some ass. You have to navigate past a sign with my name, and you don't ever say who's that. And if you do, that's too bad. I'm working hard for this, know where the target is, so I can hardly miss. You can arm your disc.